Good evening. Welcome to Kansas City, Kansas Public Library. And please join me in welcoming our guests tonight, Ryan, Hayden, and Mathew Bishop from the Association of Financial Educators. And they will present their program, Investing in Your Children's Future. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Okay. So the first thing we're going to start out with, we might need to move that, but anyway.
What are you moving?
The screens, so I can read the whole.
That there. Oh, you want this here moved?
Yeah. So we can. Yeah, just click there. Yeah.
I don't think he knows he's muted.
Oh. I think it's intentional.
I thought he was trying to find something.
Yeah, I think it's intentional. Welcome to the library, Roxy, Amanda. Nice to see you. Pleasant surprise. Matt, we can't hear you. We didn't hear anything. You need to unmute yourself. Sorry, little technical difficulty.
Okay. How about now? We're good?
Good.
There we go.
Okay. Okay, perfect. We'll go back one. You didn't hear any of this?
Yeah, we haven't heard anything.
So 529s, tax code. You can invest your money into this, and it's all for college savings. It's all a 529 is for. So you can put money in, and you can get a federal tax deduction, and it grows tax deferred, like an IRA. And as long as it's spent on college expenses, there's no taxes. When you pull it out, you won't pay taxes. You'll only pay taxes if you pull it out for something that's not college savings, okay? So the 529 for college savings, Ryan's going to handle this so I don't keep bending over. Okay, there are two different ways you can do a 529. You can do a prepaid tuition plan or an education saving plan. We're going to go into both of those now. Let's go ahead and click forward. So prepaid tuition plan, they only have these on the West Coast. So anything you do here will be the other plan. But let's just go over it just in case. Maybe we send people to the West Coast. There's some really nice parts to the prepaid tuition plan. Basically, prepaid means you're going to lock in the rate. So whatever the going rate is for a year, that's going to get locked in, and you start saving towards that. They're both going to have the same investment options on the inside, but this one functions differently because you're locking in a rate and you're prepaying to a specific school. So yeah, here's a nice little example. You could invest $25,000 in the 529 plan with that growing, right? But then you would lock in the current annual tuition of $10,000. So even if the college tuition goes up to 15, you'd be locked in at the 10. Actually, it's really nice. I kind of wish we did have this option here. I think I would have signed up for this type of option. It's a really good piece, but that's not something they do here. The other thing I didn't actually mention earlier and I apologize, 529s function specifically state to state. So Kansas has their own 529. Arizona has its own 529. You can buy each state's 529. That's fine. You can invest in it because they have different investment options, but they're all specific to the state. That's why this is really mostly California with a little bit of other West Coast. But that's the prepaid tuition plan. Let's keep moving on. So an education savings plan. This is going to function a little bit differently. You just put the money in, and it can go to any expense here that works for the school. You can see there, room and board, tuition, anything that's mandatory can be paid for. Sometimes you can throw in things like a laptop if the laptop is required by the school. What you can't do is pay for a car with a 529. Okay, you might need a car at college, but since that's not required by school, you can't pull that off. But you could actually live off campus with a 529 as long as your payment is the same or less than what it would be if you were on campus. I didn't know if that covered everything. Did that cover everything that I was just
Address what happens when they invest in 529. What are they investing in?
Yeah, so a 529 is the tax wrapper, like the IRA or 401k. It's a tax wrapper. Inside are going to be whatever your investment vehicle is. Most of the time, this is a mutual fund. Okay, so there are specific 529 mutual funds that you can get into. Most broker dealers are going to have it, and you could do that. You could possibly be in another piece, but most of the time there's specific 529 mutual funds you can be inside of. Now, with that means that there are a couple of different ways that you can go through that. You can either do the direct sold plan. So if you're going to do Kansas State's plan, you can go and buy that plan from Kansas State and be directly invested in what they have. Or you could go talk to a broker dealer, a financial advisor like myself or Ryan. You could talk to one of us and you could invest in it through them. And then what you would do is shop around from state to state. For instance, we sell Arizona's at times. We sell, what is BlackRock? BlackRock is Ohio and Kansas. So we've sold several different states, and it just depends on what the investment inside. Better mutual funds. We like BlackRock a lot because it has a lot of options. So, and that's Ohio.
Oh, the question on fees. So
I think that's the next
address
slide.
what you do with BlackRock.
Yeah. So fees. Here are the different fees here's the different ways you pay. Remember, you can either go directly through the state or you can go through a broker dealer. The fees are going to be dependent upon how you buy. If you buy directly through the state, you're going to pay what, 2.5%?
Typically. You're
going to pay like 2.5% on every dollar. Every dollar that goes in, 2.5% will come off the top as a commission, and that's what you'll pay. If you go through a broker dealer, it depends on how they charge. For instance, we generally don't charge anything for 529s. We invest those for free because we're trying to build college savings. Most of the time, they're not humongous accounts, and it's not a lot of work for us. So we're generally buying no load funds for people and not charging. But it depends on where you go. You're going to pay anywhere from 2.5% to 0%, depending on what you're doing. And a prepaid tuition plan, you're going to have that administration fee because you're linking up with a specific school. And then okay, we talked about this a minute ago. With the way this affects your taxes, federal taxes, you get a write-off. You could get a write-off for the state if you buy the specific state. So if you buy Kansas State's 529, you can get a write-off in Kansas for that. But you could get a
Kansas specifically does do write-offs for every other state in the country.
Kansas does that. Not every state does that. He's right. I forgot to say that. So you can get a write-off in the state as well as the federal. And contributions, well, we just went over contributions. Withdrawals, as long as it's for a qualified higher education expense, you're not going to pay any taxes when you pull it out. The interesting part about this, we went over a little bit what a qualified higher education expense is. Anything that you can say the school is requiring or is mandatory. But the other interesting part, where can you spend this? You can spend this at a high school level. You can spend this at a college level. You can spend this for a summer, not an internship, I guess, but if you're going through summer school and you get to go to a something interesting at a college while you're still in high school, you can spend that over the summer as well out of the 529. So the 529 is pretty broad in how you can spend it. It's just education. Also, educational opportunities, as Ryan likes to say, goes from major universities to clown school. You can spend anywhere in between, and you can go to those schools. VOTEC schools, all of those qualify for 529.
Clown college is real, in case you wanted to know.
And unfortunately, clown college is real. Yeah, sorry that we mentioned that.
Oh,
Yeah, this is you.
yeah. So financial aid is the big thing now. So back when I went to college, not everybody had to apply for financial aid. Now, everybody does, because it's how scholarships and the states frame up their spending on students and who gets rewarded what. So the game goes like this: the lower your FAFSA score is, the more likely you are to win the scholarship, or your kid is, even if it's a merit-based scholarship, even if it's not need-based. And two rich kids apply for the same scholarship, and this one's FAFSA score is a little lower, this one's going to win, all other things being equal. So we say, how does it affect that situation? So there are a number of different things. So these, I've thrown a lot of numbers at you, and I don't expect you to remember these. Just remember there are some. So if you have a parent or student owned 529, which could be you can own one for your kid can own one for themselves, you can own one for you. But whoever owns, if it's parent or student, if they own a 529, 5.64% of those assets count as available for benefits. So it reduces the FAFSA score, or reduces the FAFSA benefit. So that's not as bad as holding cash in the bank or a UTMA, UGMA, and Matt's going to fire up those here in a few minutes. A UTMA account is one that is not specific to college, but is specific to the child. So that money, that counts as 20% available for college. And so you get that's a more damaging vehicle for the FAFSA score. If a grandparent owns it, it doesn't exist. So that's your best tax break. If you have a cooperative grandparent who's willing to contribute and set up the grandpa and grandma scholarship, that is your most both tax efficient way for them, but also FAFSA efficient for the student. As well, just know this, 529s, they're tied to one student, but if I have 3 kids and my oldest one decides not to go to school, you can retitle it in the second kid's name. The second kid cures cancer by the time they're 11 years old. You go to the third kid and give it to them. And then third kid says, well, I'm going to cure the common cold. And they do that. Then you've decided to go back and get a PhD. You can make the 529 yours.
You can also split it into 2.
Yes, you can split it up as many ways as you want. It can go down 2 generations, up 2 generations to include step, and out to cousin without it switching hands and generating a tax or a penalty. So those are interesting to know. Anymore, you definitely have a number of occasions where you have a divorce situation. So a 529 owned by the divorced parent who does less of the financial providence does not reduce FAFSA as well. So some teamwork there, if possible, could also be a benefit in this space. And then any other non-parent, grandparent, it doesn't matter who. If somebody else owns an asset, it doesn't count towards the FAFSA score. And the student aid index, that SAI score, is a wild and crazy set of numbers. Nobody knows what they mean, but you'll get one. That's about the size of it. So you can use a 529 anywhere. You can apply for federal financial aid. So again, like Matt mentioned, clown college, in case you need to know that. If you get scholarships, I like that second part. So say your kid's going to play college football and get a full scholarship, you can then take money out to the amount of whatever they were scholarship. You don't have a penalty on it, but you will be taxed on it. So one of your other things you can do is actually turn it into a Roth IRA after it's been around for 5 years. So that's another really great Swiss Army knife. It's got to be funded. It's got to be around for 15, funded for 5.
Yeah.
So this next one, the American Opportunity Tax Credit, gets missed a lot. It is more efficient. So if you're going to send a kid to college, if you know you're going to spend $4,000, you do that first before you use the 529. If you've got the $4,000 because you're going to get a $2,500 tax credit, that's not an income adjustment. That's not a deduction in the number that is, calculated for tax purposes. That's actually, you're going to get $2,500 back from the government because you spent $4,000 if you qualify for this particular tax credit. So that's even better benefit than the tax break on the 529. So you do this first, and then you do the 529. You can see the limitations are on income that could come into being. The Kansas Learning Quest Scholarship Match, interestingly, is a Kansas grant, even though the Kansas plan has always used the Arizona plan for itself. But the reality is, if you want to go, this is a matching thing where Kansas will match up to $600 a year for a family under certain incomes. So you want to go to the Kansas Learning Quest website to look that up. But you got a 3-year-old and you're thinking maybe they go to college? Great. Apply. If you're under the right income level and you put $30 in, they're going to give you $30. Put 500 in, they give you 500. But it's again free money. So you can launch that through that program, and then you can go use a private broker dealer after that if you want a higher quality set of investments. But free money, nobody can beat free money. So program worth noting. Now, a lot of this stuff is not about numbers. A lot of when you start investing for a kid, and we've touched on just the college, and Matt's going to give us some other options here in a minute. But for my taste, this is less about how do I make the best bottom dollar. When it comes to dealing with kids, my feeling is when you start investing for their future, it's about relationships and memories. And especially, I think our culture has gotten a place where we don't engage with grandparents the way we used to 50 years ago. And so I like using the opportunity of the grandpa and grandma scholarship. If they're willing to contribute anything at all, then you set something up through them or have them contribute to the one you're setting up for your child. But then your child does homework assignments every year with the grandparents. 5 minutes, 20 minutes, it doesn't matter. But a set of homework assignments. And I actually, for those who are interested, we have created a bulk number of those that could be used for families who say, I really like this. We want to use this investment as a tool to grow some financial literacy, but also grow relationships. Because if eventually you're paying for your child or you're paying for your grandchild's college, increasing the relationship along the way just makes the whole thing better. Because now the kid's going to value the time, not just spent with parent or grandparent, but the money that was put in because they went through the whole process. So to me, it becomes a fundamental piece. If you're funding somebody's education, let's make some purposeful activities about it. Scholarships and debt too. So we touched on the scholarship issue, but I would argue that if you can do anything to get your kid out of college without debt, I know it's really cool right now to borrow all your college debt and get your degree in, whatever, gardening in Middle Eastern Europe, you can make $24,000 a year, but you're going to owe $150,000 by the time you get out of college. So looking for ways to prepare ahead of time, and then just recognizing the scholarshiping piece. If you do get those, you've got that flexibility to take money out of the 529. Things to think about with a 529. Anybody can use it. That's the question.
Oh,
Who can? Absolutely anybody
yeah,
can.
jump ahead.
Did it jump?
No, I must have jumped ahead. Oh, there we go.
Backward. Okay, so I started on the wrong one.
No,
I got excited.
No, it was-
So yeah, go ahead and click that. Yeah, who can use one? Anyone who goes to any educational capacity that has a federal financial report. Again, high school, college, everything in between, clown college, local community college, it all works.
oh, sorry.
It can be used for absolutely everything. So everything that's, like Matt said, qualified education expense. All right, get my next one. When to start? So when I got into the business, the lady that was the branch manager used to say the right time to start investing is when you have the money. There is no magic time. If your kid has a social security number, meaning they've been born and around for a few weeks, that's an okay time to start. And you're never going to be upset that you invested and that money grew. And if they don't go to college, like we said, there are a number of other opportunities to change the shape of that thing so it becomes part of your child's future no matter what. If you do pull money out of 529 without applying, then you do have the taxation that's due back on it plus a 10% federal penalty for changing the shape of that investment. And Matt, take this one on.
Okay. So this is about investing for kids, but we've only talked about college savings, and there's a lot of different ways you want to invest for a kid. So let's go over the other options. So you see there's Uniform Gift to Minors Act and Uniform Transfer to Minors Act, UTMA, UGMA. Those are basically the same thing. And what that is it's a way, it's a little bit of a tax shelter, not quite the same thing as a 529, but what it does is it allows you to gift money to the kid, transfer money to the kid, and once it's in their name, it can only be spent on them. Can't spend it on anything else. So if they have money invested in it, all that can be spent on is for the child's benefit. So if you put $1,000 in their name and then, at age 12, they want to go to, something that's just
Disney
for
World.
them. What's that?
Disney World.
Disney World, and it's just going to cover their expense. You can do that. But if you want to go to Disney World, you can't do that. So it's a gift to them. It stays in their name. And what you get for that is lower taxes. So the first $800 worth of income is not taxed. And then after that, it's going to be taxed at the child's rate. So it's a lower tax vehicle, and it allows you to shift money to their name. The downside is you lose control at age 21. At age 18, they can own it. At age 21, they have to own it. So if you set aside $20,000 for your kid and you want them to use it for college, but they don't, but at age 21, they decide they want to buy a truck. 20,000 would be a cheap truck nowadays. But anyway, they decide they want to buy a truck, then they could because it's their money. But if you don't know that you want them to spend it on college, this is a better way to go. And if you're trying to give them a leg up in life so that they can start investing this, UTMA is a really good way to go. We have a lot of people that will invest into a UTMA where the kid ends up turning around and keeping that account and investing in it themselves and using that as the funding for their IRA or their future retirement, their future house, things like that. So UTMAs are a good way to start a kid out and give them a leg up, but it doesn't have an education base to it. A Coverdell education savings account is now wrapped inside of a 529. So that used to be one way you could invest. It used to be called education IRAs, but those are actually wrapped now inside of a 529. So that's not different. Well, let's talk about a parental investment account. So what if I am not sure I want to do college savings specifically, and I'm not sure I trust my kid to spend the money the right way. What do? Well, I invest for them, but I keep it in my name. That gives me the utmost control. It also means the most taxes. So if we look at this as a gradation scale, the 529 is not going to be taxed at all, and I get a write-off. The UTMA is going to be a space where the kid's going to be taxed, it's going to be a lower tax, but then they have control of it. And then the parental account, that's the space where I have the utmost control, but it also costs the most tax-wise. But I get to decide when they get it. I get to decide how they spend it. If I don't like what's being spent on, they don't get it. Make deals. Hey, if you get good grades, this money gets spent for this. Those are all things you can do in a parental investment account. You just lose a little bit on the tax side, but you also have control. So it goes from lowest taxes, least control, all the way down to most control, most taxes. That's kind of the shift there. The savings or municipal bond. So if you have a real quick plug for savings accounts here, if interest rates are 2.5%, not interest rates. Interest rates are 4.25% right now. If inflation is 2.5% and a savings account is giving you 0.5% at the bank, what are we doing in that account? We're not saving, we're losing. So we don't want to use savings accounts. We want to use money market accounts, not saving. So if you're trying to get your kid to learn the value of savings, I get why you would have a savings account, but start to shift over to a money market account at the bank or go to a broker dealer and find one there. A municipal bond, the reason why that's involved here is because they do save on taxes. If you invest in a municipal bond in a parental investment account, if you have a municipal bond, you won't pay federal taxes on the growth. Okay. And in some states, you won't pay state if that happens to be a municipal bond in your state. The downside of a municipal bond is they don't earn a lot. So if you're trying to grow this for the kid, it's not going to be a large earner. It's going to be a safer spot, but not a large earner. So we don't want to use savings accounts unless we're just trying to teach a kid how to save, at the very beginning. We want to move that to a money market space, and a municipal bond might be okay in a payout phase. So say they're in college and you're giving them money, you might want it to be a little safer then, but it's not a good spot to grow. I think that covers everything. Okay, should I invest in a 529 education savings plan or a prepaid tuition plan? This is a really, really easy question because you don't have access to prepaid tuition plans here. So if you're planning on going to school here, you're going into the education savings plan. If you have access to something on the West Coast and California, then I think what you want to do is look at price. And I think the prepaid tuition could be very valuable.
So then it was kind of tilt down towards the end. Just how do you go about funding it? And any which way you can. When I started with mine, I rolled quarters and went to the local bank, put them in the account, and then dropped that into the kids' 529s. There are a lot of places that do not have a minimum. The slide says often $250 or lower. Matt, when you're helping someone with a 529, what's your minimum?
Zero.
Yeah, same here. So there are places that do that. You got $5, they're going to help.
Learning Quest will take $5.
Yeah.
The Kansas State plan will take that. If you go to some broker dealers, they might have a minimum.
Right.
Don't know.
So just know there are a variety of answers to that, but how do you fund it? Any way you want, any way you can. Birthday money from the grandparents, throwing a party and for your birthday party for the kid and ask everyone to bring $1 instead of a birthday present, any way you want. And anyone can fund your kid's 529.
That's true.
So if your kid starts mowing the neighbor's lawn, you can work out a deal with the neighbor where the neighbor your kid thinks they're making $10 every time they mow, but they're actually making 15 because the neighbor's putting $5 in the 529. You can rig up pretty much anything you want. Anyone can contribute to anyone's 529. If they have the account number or a way to contact and say, I want to put money in, you're good to go. So back to the what if my student doesn't? We talked about this a little. So, you can relabel to a different person's name. Like I said, up 2 generations, down 2 generations, including step, out to cousin, redo the name. You can, after appropriate time, 15 years of existence and 5 years of funding, you can convert it to a Roth IRA, which is a phenomenal head start for retirement. Tax-free money in retirement because you planned for your kid or your grandkid to go to college. Things went another way. Now they got tax-free retirement money. Let's see. Seems like there's one other thing. Well, yeah, scholarship-wise, you can cash it out and pay the penalty and the tax on it. But just
You don't pay a penalty,
fairly-
just pay taxes.
fairly flexible in that regard. So those are all the different things and all the different reasons you would use a different account for your kids and getting them started. So yes. Yes.
That's
This is
great.
neither a legal interpretation nor gotta love the disclosure pages. Any questions?
That was really fast, sorry.
Yeah, no, we did good. And we didn't make anyone bored.
Wow. I don't
Well,
know if we
hopefully.
can guarantee that.
I have a question.
Questions galore.
I'm not sure what my question is. I'm gonna start talking and maybe my question will figure itself
April, I
out.
can see you talking, but for some reason I can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now? I don't know.
I can hear.
Oh,
Can we hear?
Elena, can you hear her?
Yeah, I can hear.
I can hear
We
you.
can't hear anybody.
Oh,
Our sound is off. Hold
how
on.
did our sound go off?
I don't know. This is our fault.
Technical difficulties.
can you hear now?
Okay, now go
There
ahead.
you go.
Okay, cool. I guess I'm just like, I hear you saying like you can't overfund it, so you can transfer it to IRA, but I'm pretty sure you can only transfer a maximum of 35,000. Is that accurate?
I think that's true. There is a set number. And you can only do the maximum each year as well. So you can't right now do more than 7,000
Right.
in a conversion year. So
Yeah, you can definitely overfund, or you can
Yeah.
there definitely are limits on how much you can put into a 529.
to get the state of Kansas tax break, it's $3,000 per parent per kid per year. Gets you the maximum state tax break.
Okay. I guess I'm worried about underfunding and overfunding because I'm putting like 1,000 a month into my 5-year-old's plan, which is great, I think. But like I'm currently a professor in the state of Kansas, and so if AI doesn't take over my job, my daughter would eventually have free tuition for the school there. But like that's a big unknown, and it's also a big unknown where she'd want to go to school. So like I want to prepare and I want to have enough. But then like right now we only have one kid, and if we don't have other kids and we don't have cousins and things like that, like practically speaking, if I have like a massive amount and then for whatever reason maybe she does get free tuition at the school I'm at, or maybe she doesn't go to get a million degrees, like do you have recommendations of like what a good like max amount a kid would want around 18 that would be like a lot but practical? Because I just don't want to like put too much into that if it'd be better off if I put half of the money into the 529 and half of it into some other investment thing for her.
Yeah, so I would look at if what, let's say that the $1,000 you want to earmark specifically for your daughter is a daughter. Is that what you said? Okay, good. So you want to specifically earmark $1,000 for your daughter, then per month. Then I would definitely look at doing half of that, at maximum half of that into the 529, and the other half into either the UTMA we discussed, or into an account in your name that you have her as the direct beneficiary, so that this is going straight to her. Most of your stuff is going to have her as a direct beneficiary, but set aside just as, hey, this is going to be her account. I would look at the UTMA or the parent account. It gives you control, and it doesn't require it to just be for school. So let's go with the UTMA option, or either one. Let's just kind of look this out further. You put money into the 529, and you get $30,000 by the time she's 18, right? And that's going to do an awesome job of paying for almost all of her schooling at an in-state school. That's right. That's in today's dollars. So let's say it gets up to 40,000, and it's going to come close to paying for at least 3 years of schooling, right? The other money that you set aside, another 30,000 that's in the UTMA or in the parental account, that's going to go to pay for all the other pieces. So let's say that the 30,000 is just paying for tuition, and the other part you can pull out, and she wants to live off campus, or she wants to have a car. Those are things you could end up doing. Or like I said, it can be seed money for her to start investing, because she starts working in high school and gets her own Roth, and she starts going, hey, I can do this, and this is kind of a big piece. I would definitely keep that separate so that you have more options.
I agree, and I like the fact that $6,000 figure. If you're putting 1,000 in each month, and you're breaking half 529, half UTMA, at 6,000 that gets your max Kansas tax break. You're not wasting any Kansas tax break dollars by going over that. You certainly could, but I would also note at $6,000 a year. How old's your daughter?
5.
She's 5.
5. Okay, yeah. At 10 years, you're going to have $60,000 plus growth, which arguably you could suggest, if you're fairly aggressive in your selection, you're probably going to make another 30. She's going to go to college with $90,000.
Yeah,
that's going to cover a lot of school.
She has a lot of options schooling wise, so it doesn't have to be the school you go to. Whatever your work options end up being, maybe your job isn't taken away. You just find a different university you want to go to, right? That doesn't tie you down either.
And there was a quick slide. It was a little blip on one of them. Right now, a 529 is allowed to cover $10,000 a year in college expenses. So 4 years, that's only 40,000. So extra degree work, okay, great, covered there. But again, if you overfund, then yes, she's gonna wait and she's gonna have potentially Roth conversion, pass it down to her kids.
Or,
Right now,
or
it's a-
you would have Roth
Right.
conversion, not her, yeah.
Can I
And there's-
clarify that? I'm sorry, you're saying you can only have 10,000 taken out for college a year? I thought it was 10,000 for K through 12 was the max
10,000 per year,
for college.
correct? Yeah, from a 529.
But the idea that that's gonna stay static
Yeah,
in the next
it'll change
next 10, 15 years, it will almost certainly change.
and it'll catch up and be more useful.
Yeah, it will, because college expense is going to go up. You work there, you understand that. It's not going down, so they're going to compensate that. Can I guarantee that? No, but that's the way it's gone, so.
And I would also suggest right now, the 529 is probably the most effective way to pass generational wealth. If your daughter goes to college and she's got $5,000 left in her 529 and she lets it sit and it becomes her child's,
So the one thing,
magnitudes of impact on future education.
one thing we didn't really harp on quite enough is that a 529, you're the owner of it. Your child is not the owner. You're the owner of it if you start it. So you always own it. You can turn it into a 401 or a Roth IRA for yourself, a portion of it, or you can keep some of that for grandkids. You're the owner. You don't have to give your child the ownership of it. You can stay the owner. So like he's saying, you overfund it, it grows. You're not overfund it. You just fund it, it grows. Your kid doesn't use all of it, but uses a good portion. You can turn some of that into the Roth, and some of that you can say, hey, when my grandkid comes up, guess what? I've got another bundle. But if you put this in and you do have another kid, you could split it off and now you have two pieces because you've been funding it very well. $6,000 a year is a very good funding.
So I'm going to clap in a circle because that's a round of applause.
Yeah, sorry for the lame joke, but yeah, I think you're doing a great job if you're doing that.
Other questions?
Well, depending on the market, but can that happen that your investments will go down and you will have much less than what you put originally?
So yes, but generally speaking, over 10 to 15 years, you're going to have made money.
A lot.
So we're once again talking about mutual funds. These aren't going to be individual stocks. So you're going to have less concern about investing in Nvidia, and then Nvidia goes bankrupt, in 10 years because their software and their hardware is obsolete. You're going to be invested in mutual funds, and that spreads it out across the market. So the idea that you could lose is true, but you're not going to lose all of it. You're probably not going to have less over time. What you'd want to do closer to using it is you'd want to pare back. So you'd want to go from aggressive at the beginning to a little more conservative towards the end, as you get a lot closer. Maybe in 10 years, you stay pretty aggressive till she's 15, and then at 15, you start paring back so that at 18, it's a little more conservative and you're not worried about ups and downs, fluctuations in the market at that point.
And generally, Elena, you bring up a good question. Yes, it could go down. And I would argue 1 out of every 4 years, it will go down.
Yeah.
But the other 3 years will go up much more significantly. Almost always 2 of those 3 years go up significantly more than the 1 year down. And the other year is going to be up, period. And we have not seen a period in American history where a 10-year period was behind in a significant manner than start, but almost all those 10-year periods are way ahead, often double what it's been before. So statistically, could happen. We have not seen something like that in America happen in a 10-year period, but we don't read the future.
Yeah, correct.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I just want to clarify my understanding because I'm Googling it and I don't think that it's true that there's a $10,000 max on distributions for college. It looks like for higher education, there's no max, but it's for K through 12 if you're using it for elementary.
Our slideshow wasn't prepared by us, So we did not look that specific on it. We added some other stuff, but that wasn't one of ours. So you could be right.
I
And
think
Anthony
so.
could be
I don't
right.
want to be like actually, but I don't want to confuse anyone else
No.
either.
I
And
could
also,
actually, I could see through your glasses. You were Googling it. I'm like, oh, she's going to find out.
yeah.
The real answer.
And the max contribution, like lifetime, is over $500,000, and so I'm sure they're not
Yep.
counting.
Yeah, you're not going to overfund it.
Right.
Yeah, you're not going to
You're not
overfund
going to
it. But
come up with legal problems.
if what you mean by overfunding is you're going to have more money in there than you can spend, you could do that. If what you mean by overfunding is you're going to put more than they'll let you, that won't happen.
You could overfund the state's tax break. Again, not a problem. You just don't get a full tax break on it.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question about IRAs? I think specifically Roth IRAs, because this is just something I heard on social media, and I don't know if it's true. But I heard that you can open a Roth, I think it was a Roth IRA for a kid of any age, but they have to have earned income in that year. But parents can hire their kids and just like put money in their account and just say like they mowed the lawn or whatever. But I couldn't find any, like I tried digging into it a little bit and I'm just like practically speaking, like what are the limits to that? Like if I start putting in massive amounts of money into my 5-year-old's Roth IRA and I say she helps feed the cats every now and then, like is the IRA going to ask for pictures of her feeding the cats? Or like how do you prove that a young child has a job? Because it sounds like there's no late age limit. It was just specifically just that they had earned income.
You have to have earned income, and that means you have to give them a 1099. And
File taxes.
when you do that, that means they're going to file taxes. And you would say, well, I paid them $2,000. They put all 2,000 into their Roth. That works. If you get audited, you would have to prove a justifiable job description with action. So if you said their job was to feed the cats 3/4 of every day, 3/4 of the time all year long, that's a justifiable job. It's probably even defensible. You'd have to have some kind of way that you kept track that said, yes, it's not just my word. We kept a little tally sheet.
Yeah, and it has to be a reasonable wage.
Yeah.
It can't, yeah, like he was saying, all year long. We had them feed the cat over spring break. That's not going to cut $2,000. The IRS will.
The lawn mowing gets better. So I've got
Yeah.
a client whose kids it's a medical practice of a sort, and they use the kids as models for their website.
So yeah,
And so they pay them and they max out a Roth every year. Well, that sounds a little high, but if you go to try to hire a couple of models to model for your medical practice,
Yeah.
you're probably going to pay that. So it was justifiable. But
yeah, reasonable, justifiable wage. Back it up with data, and then also file a tax return for them. So and then they also have the same limits, right? So $7,000 per year, what they can put into it. And if they don't have earned, maybe they have earned income one year, but they don't have it another year. Definitely, if they're babies, at 5, it's a little bit different. But, at 12 years old, if they're babysitting, yeah, that's earned income. I opened up 529s for my kids when they started getting jobs, and we told them they had to put $25 a month into that. And then, they also have to spend money on gas and stuff like that. So we gave them that, but yes, I started it for them when they were teenagers, and they all have Roth IRAs. So,
which is actually another, that was not on our slide. AFP did not include that, but we would argue that a child Roth is actually a very good idea.
Yeah.
And you may or may not be aware, the principal put into a Roth can be pulled out before you're 59 and a half, and there's no tax or penalty. So if over the years you put $8,000 in, it became 28, that initial 8,000, you can pull that back out for their use, no tax, no penalty, because you already paid taxes on it.
yeah, just you can't pull the growth out.
Yeah.
That works for anybody,
Yeah.
but it definitely works for kids. One way you can.
Other stuff.
No one else has questions. I do have another one.
Okay, so I do. Oh, I'm so sorry. Can I cut in?
You already
So-
did.
Yes, I did. So here's my question. So our kid is older. He's in his 20s, and he decided not to go to college. So, and honestly, we were saving money in whatever the Missouri version of this plan is, and I don't know exactly how much money is there. But I do know that there's something there. So could we then go onto the website for that program and transfer the money to him? Or how would we go about retrieving that on the Missouri side, if you know anything about it?
So to me, that would be worth one, potentially holding to see, does he have any kids and he's gonna want to pass it forward to them. Or once the IRS gives better details on how to convert to a Roth, because they said you're allowed to, but then they haven't provided the industry good details on it yet, it might be worth sitting on it and letting it become a Roth IRA at some point in time and then distributing the benefit from that. So if you, I mean, you have a number of options there, but I would say cashing it out and turning it over to him, well, you're going to pay taxes on it because you own it. So it's going to bump your tax bracket up. And so not ideal,
Yeah,
but
turning it into a Roth and then distributing it back to him, whatever you put in, and leaving the growth until you're 59 and a half. That's your best way to do it. Or at 59 and a half, you can pull it out at a Roth and it won't cost you anything, and you can hand it over then. I know that's not anywhere close, but in terms of tax situations, that's probably your best bet tax wise.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
April, you had a question?
Yeah, I was wondering, I heard you say that you can use one plan for multiple children and just like transfer it around. Is there any benefit at all to having two accounts for two different children, other than like maybe arguing?
if you're overfunding, I mean, if you're gonna put, if you say, no, we want to put 12 into the 529 space, well then, well, sure, because you've got 6,000 here getting the tax break and 6,000 here getting the tax break. That would be your advantage. You're getting a little more state of Kansas tax break.
Yeah.
And
The other
there's less confusion going forward. They each have their own account.
the other thing you could do is start saving now. You don't know that you're going to have another child, and you do. You could then split it at that point and go, okay, I wanted it to be equal. Or, this child's a lot younger. I'm not going to split it completely. I'm going to give like 1/3 to the baby and 2/3 to the one that, you can split it at that point, or you can split it, at any point in there. For you right now, it makes a lot of sense to have one plan. And then in the future, you could start another plan, or you could split what you already have. So,
And I would say what works best is whatever makes the most sense and makes you happiest.
yeah, what's going to function better just in your,
Yeah, best bottom dollar, tiny advantage, getting multi-state discount, but better is just what feels better to you.
yeah, I would agree.
I think we wore them out.
That's the goal.
All right, well, I would reflect again, if you have follow-up questions, Alina's got our contact information. Feel free anytime to reach out, and glad to answer any questions you've got.
Absolutely.
Doesn't even have to be on this topic.
Thank you very much for conducting this program for us. It was really informational, informative, and very interesting. I wish we had more questions.
Oh, yeah,
Great question.
Yeah, no, you guys had great questions. Yeah.
Well, thank you.